Hello again, Year 9. I hope you had lots of success last lesson. Today we are going to be carrying on the topic of multiplication, and we're going to see how we can expand our idea for multiplying by numbers bigger or larger than 10. However, before we get started, a nice little puzzle for you to do. I would spend a few minutes on this, maybe try it in the back of your book. You need to draw out 9 dots that are configured as shown in this diagram to form a square. And the question is it possible to draw 4 straight lines that go through all 9 points? Some of you might have seen this before. Great if you have, but can you crack it? So 4 lines got to go through all 9 points. You can pick whichever place you want to begin, but the big important thing is you cannot take your pen off the paper. So no cheating, please. All 9 points with 4 lines. Good luck. So here is the solution to this problem. Do count my lines carefully. I will count with you. You do need to think a little bit out of the box on this one. I'm going to start in the top corner. So there's line number 1. Line number 2. Line number 3. And line number 4. So you'll see I've gone beyond the boundaries of the grid, and it is the only way that you can get it to work with 4 straight lines. Hope you enjoyed that one. So I hope you've managed to print out my sheet for today, but do not worry if you haven't done so or you can't do so. Just write the title Written Methods 4 into your book. Do write down today's date, and the objective for today is multiply numbers by a 2-digit number. So we're going to be multiplying by numbers greater than 10. We're not going to be multiplying by 10 because we already know how to multiply by 10 by shifting all the digits one place. But I might refer back to that idea in a moment. It's more than likely that you've probably tried multiplying by 2 digits before. So for some of you, this might be some revision from work in lower school, or it might even be some revision from some work that you tried in year 6. However, it is desperately important that you know how to multiply with numbers, because one of your exams at GCSE is a non-calculator paper, and these sorts of questions can often come up on that paper. So we are going to be using place value. And the way that we're going to set out this work today is we're going to write 462 times 23. Except we're going to have a little bit more space to do our answers. Now, some people, when they set this out, will leave 2 lines and then a final answer line. Some people might find it easier just to set out with that extra line in there, so you're basically having 3 sections. I'll leave it entirely up to you. So how does a long multiplication work, or multiplying by a number greater than 10? Well, on this row, we're going to do some similar maths to what we were doing last lesson. We're going to do our 462 times the 3. So we're going to ignore that number there and just times by 3. On the next row, we are going to do 462 times 20. But we also know that 462 times 20 is the same as 462 times 2 times 10, because 20 is 2 times 10. So in essence, what we do here is we're going to do 462 times 2, and we know that when we times a number by 10, it shifts all the digits one place bigger. So in order to do that, I'm going to put a 0, something that Alfie might refer to as a placeholder, a 0 in that column. I normally call that the magic 0. So never forget the magic 0. And then this final line is when we have finished, we will add these 2 rows up, and this will be our final answer. Sometimes you need to be a little bit careful because sometimes your little carries might get in the way and you might get confused. Some people like to put them up here, some people put them here. I've always embedded them in my questions and just learned to ignore them. If you write them nice and small, that is the best way that you will not count them twice. So let's begin this question, 462 times 23. So remember, we're doing our first line, which is 462 times 3. So I'm doing 2 times 3, and that is 6. I'm doing 6 times 3, and that is 18. So it's an 8 and a 1 in the next column. And you'll notice I'm writing it really tiny, big enough so I won't miss it, I won't forget it, but not so big that it's in my face and it's going to confuse me. And now we need to do 4 times 3. And 4 times 3 is 12. Add the extra 1 is 13. So 462 times 3 is 1,386. So I'm now doing 462 times 20. But because I've put that 0 there, I can think of this as 462 times 2 now. So I'm going to do 2 times 2, which is 4. I'm going to do 6 times 2, which is 12. So carry the 1. And I'm now doing 4 times 2, which is 8. Add the 1 is 9. I now need to add up my 2 numbers. So starting with the units, I've got 6. 8 and 4 is 12. So 2, carry the 1, 12. 3 add 2. So remember, I'm not adding that extra 1 this time. 3 add 2 is 5. But I am adding this extra 1 down here is 6. And 1 add 9 is 10. So the answer to 462 times 23 is 10,626. And what you'll notice I tend to do with numbers, when I start getting into the tens of thousands, I might start using a comma for the thousands. If it was an answer like 6,232, I don't normally stick a comma there. It wouldn't be right or wrong if I didn't. Let's look at some more examples. So my next example is 126 times 16. So 126 times 16. I'm going to set out my answer lines. Again, this is a good place to use a ruler. Remember, this first line is going to be for 126 times 6, and then 126 times 10. Now, if you think you're going to be the sort of person that forgets to put that 0 in, then put it in before you start. So don't forget your magic 0. So we are doing 126 times 6 first. So I'll start with the units column. 6 times 6 is 36. 2 times 6 is 12. Add 3 more is 15. And 1 times 6 is 6. Add the 1 is 7. I always like multiplying when this number's 1 because multiplying by 1's nice and easy. So I've got my magic 0. It's 6 times 1 is 6. 2 times 1 is 2. And 1 times 1 is 1. The only thing left to do is to add these two numbers together. 6. 5 add 6. 11. So I've carried 1. 7 add 2 is 9. Add that 1 is 10. So again, carrying 1, there's 10. And then 1 add the 1 is 2. So 126 times 16 is 2016. Next, we've got 304 times 27. Now, what you could decide to do here is just pause the video for a moment and try and do this question independently. If you are feeling confident, then play the video, see if you get the same answer as me. If you're not feeling confident yet, let's do it together. So 304 times 27. You can see why you should be using your ruler. Sir's a little bit untidy there. I'm going to put my magic 0 in first so I don't forget. So remember, this row is 304 times 7. So 4 times 7, 28. Remember, 0 times 7 is 0, but we need to add the 2. 2. And 3 times 7, everyone's favourite, 21. On this next row, we're doing 304 times 20, or with our magic 0, 304 times 2. So I start with 4 times 2, which is 8. I then have 0 times 2, which is 0. And then 3 times 2, which is 6. All there is left to do is add them up. So 8 add 0 is 8. 2 add 8 is 10. So that's 0 and carry 1 to the next column. 10. 1 add the 1 that I've just carried is 2. And 2 add 6 is 8. So the answer to 304 times 27 is 8,208. If you did it independently, did you get that one right? Let's look at two final examples. So I have 278 times 21. So remember, a number in each square. Use your ruler for your answer line, please. It will look a lot tidier. And I'm going to put my magic 0 in now so I don't forget. So this first line is for 278 times 1. Don't need to think about that. 278 times 1 is just 278. The second line is for 278 times 20. Or with our magic 0, we are going to just do 278 times 2. So 8 times 2, 16. 7 times 2, 14. Add the 1, 15. And 2 times 2 is 4. Add the 1 is 5. Just need to add these up. 8 add 0 is 8. 7 add 6 is 13. 2 add 5 is 7. Don't forget the 1 is 8. and 5 by itself is 5. So the answer to 278 times 21 is 5,838. Now for my final example, I've got 35 times 587. But we've only learnt how to multiply by a 2-digit number today. So what I would suggest you do is it doesn't matter if we swap these numbers round. We know that 4 times 3 is the same as 3 times 4. So I'm going to set this up as 587 times 35 instead. So 587 times 35. I'm going to pop my 0 in so I don't forget later. So for this top line, we are doing 587 times 5. So let's begin with that. 7 times 5 is 35. Now 8 times 5 is 40. Add the 3, 43. 5 times 5, 25. Add the 4, 29. Second row is for 587 times 30, or in our case with our 0, 587 times 3. So let's begin this one. 7 times 3 is 21. So 1 carry 2, 21. 8 times 3, 24. Add the extra 2 is 26. 5 times 3, 15. Add the extra 2, 17. All that is left to do is add it up. So 5 and 0, 5. 3 and 1, 4. 9 and 6 is 15, so carry 1. 2, 7 is 9, add the 1 is 10. And 1, and the 1 we carried is 2. So the answer to this question, 35 times 587, is 20,545. Now, I am aware that I've gone through a lot of questions there today. You might not have much time to do some questions, but do not worry, because next lesson is all about extra practice, or if some of you are feeling adventurous, perhaps trying to extend it slightly into decimals. So, work through as many of these questions as you can. Remember, with 5 minutes to go, I would like you to jump on the PowerPoint and look at the answers right at the end. I've shown all the working out, so again, try and spot where you might have gone wrong if you have an incorrect answer. But do show some really good working out, just like I have modelled today. And as always, if you have any problems, please do not hesitate to contact me in the Ask the Teacher channel.